Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, my name is Alessia and I make videos every Monday related to writing and publishing. I'm really excited for today's video. I'm going to be talking about my experience with publishing a book at 16 years old. And I've never really talked about that on camera, so I'm excited to share my story to hopefully inspire some young writers out there. So if you're interested, then please keep watching. This video is definitely going to be more of a story time video, so I'm going to start at the very beginning. I started writing the Crystal Chronicles at age 10, and I got the idea while I was swimming in my backyard, and I just suddenly wanted to write a book about the elements. And fast forward to 5 years in the future, I was 15, I had just started high school, and a lot of people had beta read the Crystal Chronicles, and most people thought that the book would do really well if it were to ever be published. So my dad, his name is John, he actually was one of my beta readers for the Crystal Chronicles, and he ended up really loving the book, and he decided right then and there to help me publish the book, and he knew that I was going to be an author someday and he was going to help make it happen. So that is exactly what we did. We researched the publishing world for about 6 months, and we knew we had 3 options. We could self-publish on a publishing platform like Amazon KDP. We could traditional publish with a company like Penguin or HarperCollins, or we could do this thing called hybrid publishing. And after doing some research and talking to some people, we decided that hybrid publishing would be the best option for us. And just remember that at this point in time, I am 15 years old, and I'm 21 right now, but when I was 15, I was so shy and way less assertive, so I was really nervous about publishing my book, and I was super lucky to have my dad as my support system and also as an adult figure to guide me through this giant world that I had just stepped into. So like I said, we decided to go down the route of hybrid publishing. And hybrid publishing is relatively new, and it's pretty much a cross between self-publishing and traditional publishing. So when you hybrid publish, you are basically paying a fee upfront for a professional publishing company to publish your book for you. So we decided to go with the hybrid publishing company Dickson Press. And a hybrid publishing company has all of the same services as a traditional publishing company. So I was assigned a manager, and I immediately began working with a huge team of people. I began working with professional editors, artists, designers, and marketing experts, which was super daunting. And the one thing that you should know about hybrid publishing is that it is similar to self-publishing in the way that you have full creative control over your book and you own all of the rights. And what you're doing is you're essentially paying for professional services, and someone is overseeing this whole process so you don't have to do it alone. But I was suddenly in charge of all of these designers and editors and artists, and I was very young, so this made me really nervous. I felt like I didn't have the assertiveness to, state what I wanted exactly. I had a really rough time with this at certain parts of the process, especially during the design process and the editing process. So since I had creative control, if I didn't like something that an editor was suggesting, or if I didn't like one of the designs my artist made, I could just say no, and they would have to work with me to think of something new. And this was probably the root of my nervousness. I am not an assertive person, and I definitely was not an assertive person at 15 years old. So delegating what I wanted to all of these different people was super nerve-wracking to me, but I quickly got over that because I prioritized my book and my vision over the people that I was working with. And it's not like I was going to hurt their feelings. These people are made to work with authors, so I definitely was just overthinking it. It definitely made me into the person that I am today. I definitely know how to work better with people, I can delegate tasks better, and I don't feel bad for advocating for myself. So publishing with Friesen Press took about a year and a half, and for the first 8 months I was working with editors. And this was actually my favorite part because I got to read all of their suggestions and their edits, and it made my book so much better, and it turned my book into a real book that deserved to be published. And then after the 8 months of editing, I began working with different designers and different artists, which was probably the hardest part for me. I am definitely not a visual person, and I have a really hard time understanding aesthetics and what colors look good together, and it was also really hard to summarize my entire book, which was almost 400 pages, into one solid image. And the thing I learned about artists is that they can't read your mind, and you have to be as descriptive and straightforward as possible. And the more information you give them, the better, because it's basically taking your brain and putting it on paper. And I found that really hard, mainly because I just didn't know what I wanted to be on my cover in the first place. So what ended up happening was my sister Julia, who is an artist, I ended up talking with her, and because she is my sister, I found it much easier to brainstorm and talk with her about my cover. And because she is an artist, she quickly just sketched an idea of what we were talking about, and that is the snake that is on my first cover today. It is the staff of Asclepius, and it is a symbol of the society. I gave this little sketch that my sister did to my artists, and they took this image and they obviously improved it and made it professional and turned it into the cover that you see today. Throughout this whole year and a half, my dad really helped me. He always oversaw all of the things that I was approving on, but a lot of it came down to me. Sometimes my dad wasn't around or he was busy with his own job, so I would be the one who was communicating with the publishing company, and I was constantly approving things. It definitely felt like an adult job. I really felt older than 15 during this period of my life. I was making really important decisions about things that still affect me to this day, and I am really proud of the person that I was in that time. In terms of publishing, everything went pretty smoothly, and I just had to wait for my books to be printed, and then in February of 2016, so I was in grade 11 at this point, my book came out. And from the very beginning, I decided that I wanted to sell my books on consignment, which just means that I sell my books personally to people who are interested in buying them, such as friends, family members, or other fans who happen to live nearby. And because of this, my dad and I decided to order 500 copies of the Crystal Chronicles. So in February, 500 books showed up at our house. It literally came in a UPS truck, and it took like 20 minutes to load into the house. That day was the best day of my life. I remember that my grandma was there, and I opened the box of books to grab a copy, and I immediately just started crying. It was 6 years of work, and so much effort had gone into writing the Crystal Chronicles. But more than that, I was surrounded by my family members, and they all really loved and supported me. And I was so young. I was 16 years old, and I just felt like the luckiest person on the planet to have had my dream come true so young. So after my book was published in February of 2016, my career took off like a rocket. Because I was in grade 11, word started to spread really fast throughout my town and throughout my school about my books. So I sold a lot of books to my friends and my peers and my teachers, and a lot of people in this time came to support me because I was so young. I definitely started branding myself as a teen author, and that was my niche. It was what made me special, and a lot of people started to notice, and it was super weird. I remember I would walk down the hallways and people would ask me about my books. The principal made an announcement like on the PA to the whole school, so everyone knew there was just some author kid walking around, and I really started to feel low-key like a famous person. So I was super lucky because a lot of people in my community and my school supported me and purchased books, and the word began to spread. But underneath all of that, I was super nervous about my book not doing well in its market. It is young adult fantasy, which is super competitive, and I was really afraid of my book failing. I was afraid of the writing not being very good, or people not liking the story or the characters, and I was terrified of failure, especially because my dad invested so much time and some money into publishing this book for me. So I really wanted to make him proud, and I also wanted to prove to myself that my book was as good as I thought it was. And I was super fortunate in the fact that my book really did take off, and people really fell in love with the series and the characters, and my fears really did begin to subside, especially when I entered grade 12. My old elementary school had me come in and sell my books to the school, and slowly other schools wanted me to come in and talk about my book. And a lot of people started to look up to me as this student who worked really hard to make her dream come true. And I was basically thrust into motivational speaking, which was something I never thought I could do in a million years. But when I was in grade 12, I used 2 spares to travel around the greater Toronto area and speak to different elementary and high schools about my book and my life as a writer, and to just motivate other people to reach their dreams, whatever it may be. Didn't have to be writing, it could be, anything else. But I really wanted to inspire people, and a lot of people wanted to hear my story, so that was how I started speaking. And because I was now a motivational speaker, my book really began to spread, and it spread like wildfire, especially through Canada. And I remember that I was working my job as a lifeguard, and all of these kids would come into the pool where I was working and they would take Snapchats of me. I remember even when I was in Tim Hortons with my friends, these kids started taking pictures, and in that moment I just thought, wow, like this is real, this is happening, and like I'm an author now. I have achieved like far beyond what I thought I could, and I think in that moment it really did hit me that this was real and this was my life. Eventually CBC Canada decided to do a segment on their TV program Art Toronto about me, and I filmed this in January of grade 12, and I think grade 12 was one of my favorite years of my life because I was hardly at school. Like I mentioned, I had spares, which is how I traveled to different schools to speak to their students. But other than that, I was also doing a lot of promotional things. So I had to take off school to go film my CBC interview. And I did it at a local elementary school, and it was probably the best day of my life. other than when my book was first published. And this whole camera crew walked in beside me into the gym where all of the kids were sitting, and all of these kids had copies of my book, and they were so excited. They were asking me questions about the characters, about the plot. They wanted my autograph, like my autograph. How cool is that? When I filmed the CBC interview, it really hit me that I was doing something beyond myself, and it wasn't just about books anymore. It was more about inspiring people to reach their dreams. A lot of people don't like writing, which I totally understand. I just wanted to show other people, especially students, that age is just a number and you can achieve anything as long as you try and, you know, have the passion for something. I would say the CBC interview was the highlight of publishing my first book. I will link the interview below to watch it if you're interested, but just as a warning, I look like a fetus. But yeah, I'll leave it down below. But that was pretty much the first year after my book was published. It really took off really fast, and a bunch of things have happened since then. My life is crazy sometimes. I met my manager. I won awards for the Crystal Chronicles, which was amazing, and it started to spread to other countries, and today most of my readers are in the US and the Philippines. So hello if you are watching this video. And I think deep down the reason why I had so much success with publishing the Crystal Chronicles and the Lost Temple is because I really had a passion for my story and making the best possible books. And I really loved writing as a craft. At the end of the day, that is what it boils down to. Writing is my life. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else, and I think that is definitely why I became pretty successful. I'm not making this video to brag about anything that I've done, so I'm sorry if it's coming off that way, but I'm just filled with so much gratitude and love for the people who have supported me over the years. And me being a teen author really did help. It made people stop and listen, and they were definitely curious about reading my book, so that definitely did help. If any aspiring writers out there are watching this video, especially if you're in high school or in elementary school or even in a university, you can do it. You can publish a book. It is easier than ever to publish a book nowadays. The world is at your fingertips. You can easily market things yourself, and people in your life will support you. Even people who you didn't even think like reading will support you. And I promise you, it will be one of the most rewarding experiences of your life. And just take this as a sign to continue writing your book, or to start writing a book that you always wanted to, because you never know what will happen and you just gotta go for it. So that was my experience with publishing a book at 16 years old. Hello if you made it all the way to the end, and thank you for watching. And I will link my bookstore down here if you guys are interested in either checking out the Crystal Chronicles or the Lost Temple. But I will be back next Monday for a brand new video, so I will see you guys then. Bye!